So in the sixth reading, we're going to look at I forgot. Good morning. Today is the 21st of First Adar. It's also the Yortzeit, the day of passing of Rabbi Lemelech of Lizhensk. He is the one who brought the Hasidic movement to Poland. He's considered to be, sometimes he's called the second Baal Shem Tov because of that. And it's the 1st of March. And we're going to be looking at the sixth reading of Parashat Tisa. And specifically we're going to be looking at Exodus 34:14. And here it tells us, "You shall not bow down to another god." For Havaya is, here it's like a vengeful god or a jealous god. This is a strange way to translate it. What it means is that he takes note of what's going on around him. And this has a very, very surprising explanation from the Baal Shem Tov. So let me just say it in Hebrew. In Hebrew it's "Ki lo tishtachaveh le'el acher, ki havaya kana shmo kel kanahu." So you're not allowed to bow to an other god. It really means a different god. So in Psalms, in Psalms 81:10, we find two very similar phrases. And they translate like this. They say, "There shall not be among you a strange god, nor shall you bow down to a foreign god." So altogether we have here three phrases, three conjunctions between God's name Kel, Aleph Lamed, which means the power, and either other, or foreign, or strange. Acher, Zar, and Eichar. So the first thing about this is that two of these phrases are about bowing down. And what happens when a person bows down? So obviously, it's not just bowing down in the sense of falling on your face, on your knees. Bowing down in Hebrew usually has the connotation of prostrate, being prostrate, meaning flat on your face, your whole body is flattened out. And it's called Pishut Yadayim V'Raglayim. The way they would bow in the temple was that they would spread their hands and feet out. That was the form of complete submission. When you bow down this way, you're in a horizontal state. The interesting thing is that horizontal in Hebrew has the same word, it comes from the same word as ear. Now horizontal is not necessarily such a new word. It's been around for a while. Me'uzan, we say. And it comes from the word ozen. Ozen means an ear. Now I don't know how much in ancient times they knew that we have a sense of balance, and being me'uzan also means to be balanced. How much they knew that it comes from the inner ear. I don't know exactly the history of that discovery. But it's interesting that in Hebrew it's the same word. To be me'uzan, to be balanced, or to be horizontal, comes from the same word as ozen. But here, in what we just looked at, these three verses, so we said there's an el acher, acher is other, zar is foreign, and, zar is strange, and nechar, el nechar, is foreign. So the initials of these three words, we're starting from Aleph, Acher, Zar, Nechar. Aleph, Zayin, Nun itself spells Ozen. So this is a thing to think about, that these three things, you shouldn't bow down to them, meaning that the rectification of having these types of thoughts in a person's mind, of having a foreign god, and we'll see what that means in a moment. So the rectification is bowing down to God, is bowing down properly, to be balanced before God himself, to be horizontal before God. Now let's see what the Baal Shem Tov taught about this. He gave this is a very common type of teaching for the Baal Shem Tov. What does he do? He says, really the way you should hear this is that you should not have in our case, an other God. You should read it as God should not be other to you. You can read this verse. You should not bow down to another God, as ki lo tishtachave lekel acher, ki lo tishtachave lekel if he's acher. Should not bow down to God if he's other to you. He's separate from you. Or, in the case of the two other phrases that we saw, should not bow down, you should not have in you a strange God, or you should not bow down to God if he is foreign to you. So he can't be other, strange, or foreign. That's how the Baal Shem Tov understands these three phrases. Very interesting way to say it. So again, there should not be among you a strange God becomes that you should not be in you. You should not bow down to God who is strange to you, who is foreign to you, who is other to you. God should not be something that's strange. He should not be something that is other. He should not be something that is foreign. So when we look at these three synonyms, other, strange, and foreign, and let's say now, what really can fix this? What can really change this? So it's obviously to make it that God is not other, he's not strange, and he's not foreign to me. So the way to understand this is that these three are really blemishes or flaws in the intellectual sfirot, in the intellectual powers. That God should be foreign to you, that represents a flaw in the sphere of knowledge, of da'at. Why? Because we've talked about this in the past. Neichar, foreign, something that is foreign to you, comes from the same root as hakara. Hakara is recognition. And that we've talked a lot about when we talked about Joseph, that he recognized his brothers, and his brothers didn't recognize him. We said this was all related to da'at, this was all related to knowledge. Because knowledge is meant to create a connection between people. So if you recognize someone, that is already a connection. And we remember the famous verse from Ruth, who said, "Why have I found favor in your eyes to recognize me?" she says to Boaz, "though I am a stranger." So it's a play on words. Madua matzati chen beinecha lehakireni v'anochi nochriya. You recognize me, and yet I am a stranger. I am foreign. So that is if God is, if a person feels that God is foreign to them, then that means that there's no connection to God. There's something missing in the connection. That's a blemish in the da'at, in the sphere of knowledge. If one feels that God is other, what does it mean that he's other? That's what we call other gods. That somehow, let's say, one way of describing this would be people that think that God is negative. Also, he's bad. He does bad things. That's a feeling of God being an other, meaning he's against me in some way. Something is confusing me in some way. That I don't feel that God is one, meaning he's everything. If that is the blemish, then that blemish is already in wisdom. Why do we say this? Because to be an other to another person means to not have love for them, not to feel that we're one, not to feel that we're connected, not in the sense of knowing him, but rather in the sense of being able to give him room, not to feel that other people are encumbering on my space. That is how wisdom translates into self-nullification when it comes to other people. So you don't bicker and fight just because of the fact that there's someone else here. So that would be the same thing would happen with God, that you would be against him in some way. You would feel that there's something he's separate somehow from you, in the sense that he doesn't want your good. He didn't create the world to be something good. So that requires self-nullification. Finally, strange, to say that God is strange, refers to something that's peculiar, something I do not understand. So that means that I cannot grasp God intellectually. So obviously we can't grasp God intellectually. How can we understand this? That at some level we're not learning what we can, even though we cannot fully grasp God. But there's a very famous statement from the Baal Shem Tov that it's not the same thing to acknowledge that I cannot understand God after I've tried, as opposed to just saying beforehand, because you cannot fully comprehend God, you're not interested. I heard a very interesting argument from a non-Jew that I, from time to time, engage in learning with. I mean, it's not an interesting argument. It seemed to me a little silly, but for him it was very, very powerful. Like, he said to me, why do we non-Jews not keep all the commandments? Because no man can keep all 613. So I said, what do you mean? It's like saying no man can be a woman and a child and all the same. So I'm not a human, because the Torah by definition says men should do certain things and women should do other things. The king has certain things that he does. The priests have certain things that he does. The Levites have certain things that they do. Each one is commanded depending on his post in life. We're not all the same. Everybody's different in that sense. So what does this mean? Same thing. You can't say, I don't want to be connected to God in the sense of my understanding, my bina, my intellect, because I can't fully understand him. Okay, so you can't fully understand him. Understand what you can. A person has an obligation to study what he can. So the Baal Shem Tov says this is a huge difference. If a person forsakes the study of theology, he's not interested in learning about God, so he doesn't have a connection. Because without learning, there is no connection. The mind has to engage in this type of contemplation, in this type of thinking, in order to create a connection. So these three things, that he's foreign, like we said, that's knowledge, and he's peculiar, strange, that we said is wisdom, and here we're talking about, the first one was and now other, that he's separate. These three things, they are blemishes in the intellect, and their remedy is to rectify the intellect, the intellectual powers, each one in relation to our connection to God. So that's it for today, and we finished this week. I wish everyone Shabbat Shalom, and hope to see you on Sunday with Parashat Vayakhel. And we have really, really good pieces for next week. So I hope you join us. Bye-bye.